Okay, so I'd like to begin with first some prayers. Om Jnana Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadavayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Saha Kanalalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastuse Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishnavanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapadrubhascha Kripa Sindhubhevcha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Jayapataka Swami Iti Namine Namaste Vedani Karipadani Gaurgata Tamade Anagaragamdharine Namo Vishnu Now we will sing some verses in glorification of Srimad Bhagavatam. नष्टभ्रेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमा श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नष्टकी नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयम् उदीरयेत् कृष्णस्य धर्मज्ञानिभिः सह कलौ नष्टं दिशामेषा पुराणोऽर्कोऽनुनोदिता अनर्थोपश्मं साक्षात् भक्तियोगमतोऽक्सजे लोकस्य जनतविद्वंस चक्रे सततसंहिता यस्य मैश्वर्यमाणायां कृष्णे परमपुरुषे Bhakti Utpate Pumsa Shoka Mohabhayapaha. So, my dear friends, thank you for joining us today in this study of Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is a gift which we receive by the grace of our dear spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. When Srila Prabhupada came to the West, before coming to the West, he was working very hard to come here. And his spiritual master had told him when he met for the first time that you are somebody who's educated. You should preach to the Western people in English or to the English speaking people and also encourage him to write books. So Srila Prabhupada made his life's purpose to write and publish English literature. However, in the beginning, he was publishing small articles, but later, on the advice of other people, he started pursuing this project of creating an English translation of Srimad Bhagavatam. When he finished the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there's an interesting incident happened. He was living in Vrindavan, and while living in Vrindavan, he used to visit every week a writer's meeting. It's like if you are in US also, people who do coding, like they have like a startups meeting there. People go there and share their what they have progress. So there in India, in Vrindavan, there used to be Sanskrit scholars who were all working on some projects. They used to meet every week to share what they have written, what they have translated, something new they will share. So he came he used to come. At one such meeting, he came and he said, "Today I have finished this translation of the Srimad Bhagavatam first canto, and I would like to offer that to all the assembly people here." So he bought those books and handed them over to all the members of that assembly. And after handing it over, he said, "I want all of you to please bless these books. That these books can be spread. The Srimad Bhagavatam can be spread all around the world." So that all the devotees who were there in the assembly in Vrindavan, they're all Vaishnavas and also scholars. They took those books in their hands and they passed them around. After passing them around, these Vaishnavas, they all prayed in their heart that these books be spread all over the world. Then after doing that, then he said, I have one more request to make. They said, okay, what's the request? He said, well, these books cannot go by themselves all around the world. So I want all of you to please bless me that I can be the servant of Srimad Bhagavatam who can go along with these books and share this message of Srimad Bhagavatam all around the world. So he was very humble. He didn't want to ask for himself right away, but he has come as a servant of Srimad Bhagavatam. So when Prabhupada finished translating the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhupada said, now I am ready to travel. Prior to this, I was not ready. But now that I have translated the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, I am ready. I am prepared. So this first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam is very, very important. It is something which Prabhupada felt he has poured everything. Even if he were to not translate any other book, he felt that his mission was complete just after translating this first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So this first canto is very, very special, and Srimad Bhagavatam is very special because it is something which we received as a gift from Srila Prabhupada. It is something which he felt he needed in order for him to spread Krishna consciousness apart from the holy name. So in this Kali Yuga, there are two things: there's Krishna in the holy name, and also Krishna as Srimad Bhagavatam. So we are very close to the heart of our dear Srila Prabhupada, and we are very close to uh, the incarnation for this age, which is Srimad Bhagavatam, when we are reading this book. Uh, so, as I was told by Roshni and Kishan, that you have been studying the prayers of Kunti Devi and you finished that, and now you'll be moving to prayers of Bhishma Dev in your uh, next meetings or so. So, I want to build a bridge between these two stutis, the Queen Kunti's prayers and prayers by Bhishma Dev. So, in fact, I came across a verse which I like a lot. But before we discuss that verse, that is 1:9:15, I'll try to build up to it. So we'll start in First Canto, chapter 8, and I would like help of the devotees who are on this call in in reading the translations. So you can all take turns. I will just say next, and when I say next, I would like you to uh, read the translation of the next verse. Okay, so we'll start from one second, somewhere in the end. Yes, we start from 1:8:45. Give me a second. Okay, so 1:8:45. I will just say next, and then you read the translation. So I will say the first one, and this one I will also say sing the Sanskrit. This is the first verse only. This one I will speak. ताम्बद्धमिति उपमन्त्र्या प्रविश्या गजा सहा वयम् स्त्रियश्च स्वपुरं यास्यान् प्रेम्णा राज्ञा निवारितः. Shukadeva Goswami said, thus accepting the prayers of Srimati Kunti Devi, the Lord subsequently informed other ladies of his departure by entering the palace of Hastinapur. But upon preparing to leave, he was stopped by King Yudishtira, who implored him lovingly. So here, Krishna is very happy after hearing the prayers of Queen Kunti Devi, which all of you also read. And now he says goodbye to Queen Kunti. After saying goodbye to Queen Kunti, after hearing those prayers, he enters the palace of Hastinapur. And there he goes and says goodbye to other women. Who are these other women? Have you thought about it? Any guesses? Draupadi, yes, very good. Why Draupadi? Because Draupadi is one of the most dear friends of Krishna. So Draupadi. Who else?
Shubhadra.
Subhadra, yes, very good. That's what I try to write Subhadra because Subhadra is Krishna's dear sister, and she's gonna stay here because she got married to Arjuna. So Krishna went inside and bade farewell or goodbye to them. And finally, he also bid farewell to Yudhishthir. And he said, Yudhishthir, I'm going away. But Yudhishthir loved the Lord so much. He said, Lord, oh Lord, I'm disturbed. I need help. I'm disturbed in my mind and I need that you please, um, you know, stay a little longer because I'm feeling very disturbed in my mind and consciousness. I would like you to stay around so that you can help me, uh, appease my mind's situation. And then Krishna kind of agreed. Why? Because Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, what does it says? Bhaktya mamapi janati yavan yaschasmi tatpataha. He says, I am bought by the process of bhakti. So there is no other process which can buy Krishna except bhakti. Since Yudhishthira is so close to Krishna and he's asking, imploring him lovingly, Krishna couldn't do anything. He had to agree to what uh, Yudhishthira was asking. Okay, so let's see here now next verse, text number 46. One of you can unmute yourself and read the translation. Quick, anybody?
Text 46.
Yes.
King Yudhishthir, who was much aggrieved, could not be convinced despite instructions by great sages headed by Vyasa and the Lord Krishna himself, the performer of superhuman feats, and despite all historical evidence.
So it's interesting here that Krishna and Vyasa and superhuman Krishna, they fail to convince Yudhishthira. What's happening? I mean, these are two most biggest personalities. Vyasadeva is a writer of all the Vedas, Vedanta Sutra, you name it, all the scriptures are coming from him, and they can't convince him logically that how with the war which was fought by Yudhishthira Maharaj was rightly, and he doesn't need to worry about the reactions of that war because Yudhishthira Maharaj is sad. He feels the whole situation was created because of him. And both both Vyasa and Krishna failed to convince Krishna. So what was happening? What was happening was that in each of us there is a person which controls everything which we do, and that person is Krishna. He is present as Paramatma. In Bhagavad Gita we hear Upatishthanumantacha Bharta Bhokta Maheshwara Paramatma iti chapi ukto dehe asmin purusha para. In this body, Prabhupada writes, in this body there's another a transcendental enjoyer, i.e. Paramatma, who is the Lord, the supreme proprietor, and who exists as overseer and permitter. Upadashta Anumanta. So whatever conceptions we have, whatever desires we have, whatever actions we perform, they all have to be permitted by the super soul. Until the super soul permits, nothing can happen. Somebody may come to you and tell you, do this, do this, do this. You cannot do that. And unless the super soul in the heart gives the permission, okay, Harsh, you can go ahead and do that. So here, Krishna is present outside, but Krishna is very tricky. He has some big plan going on. So Krishna in the heart of Yudhishthira tells Yudhishthira, no Yudhishthira, you cannot be convinced this time. So Krishna is always thinking, two steps ahead. He wants to satisfy and glorify Bhishma Dev because he will pretty soon take Yudhishthira Maharaj to see Bhishma Dev. And because he wants to show the world that how Bhishma Dev is so wonderful devotee and is so knowledgeable and is actually more knowledgeable and more better situated than Vyasa Dev and Krishna himself. So Krishna is setting up a scene. So Krishna is forcing Yudhishthira to stay unconvinced and disturbed despite the presence of the greatest writer of all the Vedas, Vyasadeva, and Krishna himself. Okay, next verse.
King
But how can
Yudhishthir.
Krishna be a great devotee? He fought against Krishna.
Okay, here's a question here. What's the question?
How can you say Bhishma was such a great devotee? He fought against Krishna.
Very good. How can Bhishma be a great devotee? He fought against Krishna. So this point will be answered pretty soon, but we can give it, Prabhupada gives in the purport that two things happened. One thing is that Prabhupada explains that Bhishma Dev and Dronacharya, they were eating food prepared by Duryodhana and his family members. And the Lord wanted to show that if we eat food which is prepared by people with unclean mind, then you don't have the capacity to make good decisions. Although they're pure devotees, but the Lord wanted to show. So they, both Bhishma Dev and Dronacharya, were involved in this insult of Draupadi. And anybody who was involved in the insult of Draupadi, they had to pay a price. They are pure devotees, but Krishna wanted to set an example. And secondly, Krishna wanted to show that even when the greatest white warrior of the world is fighting in a war, but is fighting a war against Krishna, they're bound to fail. So for these two reasons, and amongst many others, Bhishma Dev was put on the other side, although he's a pure devotee. Is that satisfied? Satisfactory?
That's the real reason.
Yes.
The eating of the food is a secondary thing.
Yeah, but it's also a reason. But I agree.
And to say that their intelligence is polluted by that process is questionable.
It's said in the purport. What I'm stating is stating in the purports. It's not my opinion.
But Vishnu's intelligence is so good that he's able to convince Yudishtira when even Krishna and Vyas can't.
Again, it's Krishna.
Let's say that it's arrangement of Krishna.
Correct.
To say that his intelligence, as an overall, that his intelligence is polluted overall is not it doesn't sit right.
Sure. It's a secondary reason. It's not a secondary reason. Okay, Pooh. Let's the next verse.
King
Are you
Yudhishthira.
guys able to follow the conversation we're having here? Able to hear it properly?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next verse.
King Yudhishthira, son of Dharma, overwhelmed by the death of his friends, was aggrieved just like a common materialistic man. O sages, thus deluded by affection, he began to speak.
So Yudhishthira was also affected just like a common man. Who's this common man being talked about? Arjuna. Because Arjuna was also just recently affected like a common man, where he was bewildered. He didn't understand the basics of spiritual life. I mean, we all understand from day one when we start Krishna consciousness that we are not the body, we are the soul. And they were not able to accept and act of this principle. So Yudhishthira was falling in the same bewilderment. Why? Because Krishna in the heart wanted to glorify Bhishma Dev. Okay, next verse.
King Yudhishthira said, "O my lord, I am the most sinful man. Just see my heart, which is full of ignorance. This body, which is ultimately meant for others, has killed many, many flags of men."
Thank you. So Yudhishthira is now criticizing his own actions. He's feeling bad that what he has done. And he's saying that this body is meant to serve others. Is that true? Yes, Krishna says this number of times. In fact, Krishna, when he was with Balram in the forest, this is comes in 10th canto, chapter 22. When he saw the trees, he looked at the trees and he said, "You see these trees? They are a perfect example of how human life should be lived, or how any living entity should live." And at that time, Krishna had said, "Etava janma safalyam dehi nam cha dehi nam cha iha dehi shu pranir artha dhyavacha shreya archanam sada." It is the duty of every living being to perform welfare activities for the benefit of others with his life, wealth, intelligence, and words. And this principle is quite contrary to what is being taught to us in schools. In schools, we are taught everything is meant for our enjoyment, our satisfaction, whatever work we do. But the Vedic philosophy or the Vedic paradigm is completely opposite. That whatever we do in our life is meant to be for the purpose of others' benefit, both with our voice, our words, our labor, our intelligence, and our whatever intelligence, whatever capacity we may have. They're all meant for the service of others, for the welfare of others. So when we come together and study Bhagavatam, we are speaking about Bhagavatam. We're doing it for others' pleasure and our benefit both. So whenever we do anything activity for others' welfare, that Krishna in the heart is satisfied. So don't worry, when we work for others, we would be anyway lack of growth or lack of nourishment. We'll actually get much more than anybody else, because Krishna in the heart is satisfied. So Krishna is giving this principle, and Yudhishthira also is saying that the life is meant to serve others, but here the whole war has been fought because of me. So he's feeling sad about it. Of course, this is just a momentarily bewilderment he's facing right now. Next verse.
Throughout the Mahabharata, Yudhishthira consistently tried to avoid conflict. He's a great saint. He's a really saintly person. At every step he tried, even been insulted and tormented by the Kauravas. At every step he tried to avoid it. But Krishna says it is your duty to fight.
Right.
You have to fight. So Yudisthira is not at all at fault. Krishna arranged the entire thing and forced him to fight. Same with Arjuna. He forced
Yes.
Arjuna to fight.
Correct.
Because they're pure devotees. They don't want to harm anyone.
Right.
But they're very powerful when it comes. If necessary, they can do a tremendous service and action.
Yes.
But they're very humble.
Right. Okay, next verse.
I have killed many boys, brahmanas, well wishers, friends, parents, preceptors, and brothers. Though I live millions of years, I will not be relieved from the hell that awaits me for all these sins.
Next also. One more verse.
There is no sin for a king who kills for the right cause, who is engaged in maintaining his citizens, but this injunction is not applicable to me.
So Yudhishthira thinks that he has attacked Arjuna, Duryodhana, but Duryodhana was actually ruling the kingdom. Okay, I mean he wasn't that bad king, and because he thinks that he was the one who was greedy, he wanted the kingdom. That is why the war has been fought. It's not that the war was fought for the welfare of the people. So Yudhishthira again, he is somebody like a humble devotee. A devotee is always thinking that he is at fault. He never thinks that nobody else is at fault. So because of his humility, he is putting all the blame on himself. Again, it's quite opposite to what you find in the material world. The material world, everybody's saying you are the one who should be blamed for anything which happens wrong. But here, Yudhishthira is saying I am to be blamed for whatever bad has happened. Such is the wonderful humility of devotees. Okay, moving on. Next verse.
Text 52. As it is as it is not
No,
possible.
one more. Before that, 51 and 52.
51, sorry. I have killed many friends of women, and I have thus caused enmity to such an extent that it is not possible to undo it by material welfare work. Shall I read text 52, Prabhu?
Yes, 52 also.
Okay. Text 52. As it is not possible to filter muddy water through mud or purify a wine stained pot with wine, it is not possible to counteract the killing of men by sacrificing animals.
Right. So, Yudhishthira is telling a very important principle, which we find also quite prominent, that a cycle of revenge can never end. The like India and Pakistan, they're like enemies for years after years. Somebody does one thing, then they say think about that person did that in the past, so I have to do this, and they keep on fighting each other. And this rivalry which we have between these two countries is also present amongst many other countries which keep on fighting, lifetime after year, decade after decade. It's not ending. In fact, many movies have been built. There was this famous movie built called Taken. First they make the Taken movie. I mean, I like to watch movies. It's my weak point. But anyways, in one of the movies, there's a guy who is a good guy and he defeats like the enemies. And later, the enemy's kids comes around and he plots another thing against him and again, and they keep fighting. Most of the movies, they have so many sequels, and what they're showing is that cycle of revenge. The cycle of revenge can never end, and karma is like that. Whenever we perform any kind of karma, when we get a result from that karma, it also leaves an imprint which is known as bija for next karma. So suppose today we have a desire which is not so good, like say we engage in gambling, we go for gambling and we maybe win something or lose something. Either way we will get a result, we'll either win something or lose something. But apart from the result, what we'll also get is that it will leave an impression in our consciousness that we would want to come back to again doing gambling. It is called seed or bijam. So the cycle of karma is that it is always unending, just like a cycle of revenge. Whenever we do any activity, it leaves impression for another activity of that type later. It has also a benefit in a sense when we're doing Srimad Bhagavatam study. Not only we are getting benefit right now from study of Bhagavatam, but we will be inspired to continue to study Srimad Bhagavatam. And Krishna understands this principle, and that's why he says to Arjuna how to get rid of cycle of karma. He says in the 9th chapter, Yat karoshi, yat ashnoshi. That whatever you do, whatever you eat, yat juhoshi, yat dadasi. Whatever you give away, yat tapasyasi konteya. Whatever austerities you do, tat kurushva mad arpanam. You should offer those to me. So, like all of you are now students, or some of you are working. We are supposed to offer everything to Krishna, which means our study also, our work also. At the end of the day, we should take a minute and pause and say, "Oh dear Krishna, today I did this. I did some homework, I did some assignment preparation, I did this, I did that, I ate, I cooked. I offer all those to you." Just by saying that, Krishna says what? Next verse. Shubha Ashubh Phalar Evam. Whether it was a good result or a bad result. Mokshashe Karma Bandhana Sannyasi Yoga Yuktama. If you offer to me, then you will be liberated. And Vimukto Mam Upyasyasi. You will very soon come to me. So what we have to do, we have to offer whatever activities we are doing. Krishna is saying, Yat Karoshi, whatever you do, Yat Ashnasi, whatever you eat, whatever activities we donate, charitable, whatever we do, we have to offer all those to Krishna. He's just saying only offer me these activities. We have to offer all the activities possible to Krishna. And of course, that is a first principle, a principle of getting rid of karma. And in the next verse, Yudhishthira says that maybe there are some other sacrifices, other performances which I can do to purify myself. But then Yudhishthira himself says they won't work. Because whenever we do a sacrifice, or like say an animal sacrifice or any kind of sacrifice, there's a particular time and place when they are effective. Since Yudhishthira is right now living in the end of Dwapar Yuga, Kali Yuga is practically about to come, the efficacy of any kind of other sacrifice is very weak. There's only one sacrifice which is most effective in purifying our consciousness at the fastest rate. What's the sacrifice?
Harinam Yagna.
Yes, Harinam Sankirtan. It is a Sankirtan Yagna which is the best means possible for purifying our consciousness of any kind of previous karmic reactions. So, step one, we offer everything, whatever we do to Krishna. Second, we should engage in the sacrifice which is meant for this age. He's hinting that he's not giving it. Our acharyas talk about it in the commentaries. That is what Yudhishthira is hinting at. That any kind of other sacrifice is not going to work. Yes.
It's also, I mean, he did mention that it's not possible to counteract the killing of man by sacrificing animals.
Yes.
That means in the Prabhupada said, especially with Aswamedha Yajnas and the Gomedha Yajnas. But isn't that, he also did Aswamedha Yajna, Yudhishthira?
No, Yudhishthira didn't do Ashwamedha Yagya. He did Rajasuya Yagya.
But not the Pandavas?
I'm not aware they did Ashwamedha Yagya. They did Rajasuya Yagya. And the purpose of Rajasuya Yagya was, which is also explained in this 10th canto, when Narada Muni visits Krishna. The purpose of that was that he wanted to make the fame of Krishna known everywhere. Because in Rajasuya Yagna, you have to choose the person who is going to be the chief guest. Just like when we have Republic Day celebrations or Independence celebration in India, they invite chief guests from other countries to show off that this is the person who is our dear most to us. He's our best personality. So Yudhishthira wanted to make Krishna famous. So he said, what's better way than to do a Rajasuya Yagya? So Rajasuya Yagya, there is no animal sacrifice, but it is for the purpose of establishing the authority of one kingdom over all the kingdoms. And in that sacrifice, the first process is to name the chief guest. And the chief guest was named as Krishna.
You mentioned Yudhishthira performed Ashwamedha Yajna, maybe.
It mentioned that also there.
Where does it say that?
Let me check the exact reference, but I just asked ChatGPT.
ChatGPT is always makes things up. Never ask ChatGPT anything in these questions. In fact, you ask ChatGPT verses, it makes verses up. And it plots the verses in a chapter also. One time he told me one chapter and a verse. The chapter didn't exist in the Bhagavatam. What is the verse? So ChatGPT has some lot of speculation, hallucinations about Bhagavatam.
Yeah, we do use ChatGPT for so many things, but anyhow.
Not for Bhagavatam, never use because it has a bad habit.
If it quotes a verse,
you have to check it out.
From Bhagavatam.
No, but we have to check the verse.
Check that verse.
It happened with me so many times.
That's when it's valuable.
No, but we
have to understand how it works.
Exactly. No. So yeah, we can basically.
If it doesn't,
you can ask like quote something valid base. So
I told him. No, he invents still. It happened to me so many times. I tell them find a verse from this website, and it will make its own chapter and own verse.
So you gotta be careful with that.
Yes, don't ask ChatGPT. You have to check it, everything. Okay, back to this topic here. So we are with Yudhishthira. Yudhishthira is not satisfied. So then what happens next? Let's see it. Next verse, text 1. Okay, bolo
Next one.
Harsh.
Sutta,
Yes.
Sutta Goswami said, being afraid for having killed so many subjects on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Maharaj Yudhishthir went to the scene of the massacre. There, Bhishma Dev was lying on a bed of arrows, about to pass away.
So here comes the most important point. This is why Krishna was planning all this time this bewilderment of Yudhishthira. He wanted to please and glorify Bhishma Dev. What does Krishna says? Brahma says to Krishna, he says, Tattenukampam susamikshamano Bhunjanayatma kritam vivakam hidvagvapi vidhan namaste bhajate yosa. What's that? So dai bhak. So Krishna jivata yo say dai bhak. So Krishna, Lord Brahma says that one who tolerates all the difficulties in their life at the same time is always offering respects and prayers to the Lord with his body, mind, and words. Such a person at the moment of his death, it deserves to earn the best wealth, which is to go to spiritual world. So Bhishma Dev had spent his whole life meditating on the Supreme Lord, and it was time for him to pass away. So Krishna had to plan something, some intrigue, so that Bhishma Dev's desires be fulfilled. So Bhishma Dev had two desires. What were the two desires? The first desire was that he wanted to see that his grandkids, who are great devotees, they are properly situated. He wanted to see them in opulence. He had always seen them in trouble or poverty or difficulty. And the second desire Bhishma had was that he wanted to see Krishna at the moment of death. So this whole intrigue was set up so that uh, you know Krishna could fulfill these two last desires of Bhishma Dev. And by hearing this, we also can be satisfied that if we work very hard in this lifetime for pleasure of Krishna, just like Bhishma Dev, then we can be assured that at the moment of our death also, Krishna will arrange a situation where we can see him, where our spiritual desires can also be satisfied. So this is something which we can get from this. Now, next 7 verses, what we hear is that we hear about all the assembly of great sages who have all assembled there because they know Krishna is coming and Yudhishthira is coming. So Yudhishthira comes there along with all his family members and they're all dressed opulently. As I said, this was the first desire of Bhishma Dev. And they all assemble there. Now, why does the sages assemble there? Because they know that wherever there is Krishna and the great devotees, there will be wonderful discussion. So they all also want to participate in this and hearing this discussion. Because just like when Arjuna was bewildered, at that time all the demigods assembled to hear Bhagavad Gita. Everybody was had to pause in the assembly of the war. So similarly here also all the people, whoever is there, they're all pausing their work. They're saying it is now time for Bhagavatam class. It's like all of you pause your life. Saturday morning is Bhagavatam time. So you pause everything. Why? Because this is time for Hari Katha. So everybody in the three worlds, all the great sages, they have all left all their work and they have assembled right there to hear this Bhagavatam. Who's present there? There's present is Shukadev Goswami. There's present Parashar Muni. You name it, and they're all present. So the list of all gods and demigods is being given here, and Prabhupada gives a small biography about each of them. We won't go over them. And then, after listing all these people who have assembled, then we hear that Bhishma Dev, he offers his respect to all these people who have come here. So I would like you to read, one second, the translation and this purport. Because in this purport, we will hear how does he welcome everybody. So who would like to read? You can read the translation and purport.
I could read, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Translation. Bhishma Dev, who was the best among the 8 Vasus, received and welcomed all the great and powerful rishis who were assembled there, for he knew perfectly all the religious principles according to time and place. Purport. Expert religionists know perfectly well how to adjust religious principles in terms of time and place. All the great acharyas or religious preachers or reformers of the world executed their mission by adjustment of religious principles in terms of time and place. There are different climates and situations in different parts of the world, and if one has to discharge his duties to preach the message of the Lord, he must be expert in adjusting things in terms of the time and place. Bhishmadev was one of the 12 great authorities in preaching this cult of devotional service, and therefore he could receive and welcome all the powerful sages assembled there at his deathbed from all parts of the universe. He was certainly unable at that time to welcome and receive them physically, but he was neither at his home nor in a normal because he was neither at his home nor in a normal healthy condition. But he was quite fit by the activities of his sound mind. Prabhuji, could you scroll down a little? But he was quite fit by the activities of his sound mind, and therefore he could utter sweet words with hearty expressions, and all of them were well received. One can perform one's duty by physical work, by mind, and by words. And he knew well how to utilize them in the proper place, and therefore there was no difficulty for him to receive them, although physically unfit.
Yeah, so Prabhupada is explaining here how Bhishma Dev was able to welcome everybody despite him being on a bed of arrows. So very simple principle. And then now we will hear after this how Bhishma Dev will give lessons to Yudhishthir and everybody else because that's what he's there for. Krishna wanted to show how Bhishma Dev is able to convince Yudhishthir although he couldn't do so. So now we'll go towards the instructions which Bhishma Dev gives to Yudhishthir. There are many instructions given by Bhishma Dev. We'll go over two lessons which he gives. First lesson he gives in text number 12, which I will read. Bhishma said, "Oh, what terrible sufferings and what terrible injustices you good souls suffer for being the sons of religion personified. You did not deserve to remain alive under those tribulations, yet you were protected by Brahmanas, God, and religion." So first he states, in one sense, a lesson for all of us to take that how uh, these great souls, the Pandavas, they were coming from a very pure background. I mean, they were children of demigods. They were all great devotees, and yet they had to go through so many difficulties. However, all through all those difficulties, they were always protected. And you may say, what protected? Siddha, are you gone crazy? They were not protected. They were hunted by all kinds of armies. They were poisoned. They were living like a pauper. How can you say they were protected? Well, let's define what does protection means. Does protection mean living in a big castle? Does protection mean having thousands of army members? Does protection mean having a lot of wealth and food? No. Protection means protection of our consciousness. One may have all these different things, but if one's consciousness is disturbed by the vices of envy, greed, lust, then you're not protected. We may have all these different things. We're not protected. Just like Prahlad Maharaj tells to Hiranyakashipu, "Oh Hiranyakashipu, you may win over the whole world, all the three universes, but if your what do you call mind is not satiated, is not controlled, then you are a a third class slave of your mind." So here, what Bhishma Dev is saying is that you all were protected. That means your consciousness was always on Krishna. So we can be in different situations in our life. We can be having a family, a house, a nice vehicles, wealth. But if our consciousness is suffering from illusions of greed and envy, then we're not really satisfied. We're not really protected. We're actually severely, severely ill. So, how were they protected? They're protected by these three things: the Brahmanas, which means great devotees of the Lord, God, Krishna Himself, and religion. What does religion means? It means scripture. So, three things: Shastra, Vaishnavas, and the Lord Himself. They were always keeping themselves under the guidance of these three things. And that's being told to us also that if we want to protect our consciousness, we should live our life under the guidance of these three things. Now, living under the guidance of Krishna is a very fortunate thing. We are not so fortunate that we're living next to Krishna because Krishna is there present in front of them. But Vaishnavas and Shastras are the two things which are accessible to us. We should live our life as per the desires and the guidance of Vaishnavas. And whenever they're not possible to available for us to guide us, we should live and abide by what is given in the scriptures, in the Shastra. When we live our life molded or guided by these two elements, then we can be assured that our consciousness also will be protected, no matter what situation we are in. I know stories of so many devotees who have been through lots and lots of difficulties. And yet, despite all those difficulties, when you speak to them, you hear them, their consciousness is as clear as water from the Ganges. Completely clear, no issues at all. I personally have my personal example of meeting my spiritual master, Sholines Jayapataka Swami Maharaj. You know, the health difficulties he has, if I try to make a list, it would take me many days. Yet, whenever you speak to him, you only hear wonderful pastimes of Krishna and Gauranga, of glorification of Srila Prabhupada. He never complains about his health. And he has health problems, unlimited health problems. But he never complains about any of those issues. He's always in bliss. And when devotees ask him, why are you in so much bliss? He says, I'm in so much bliss because I'm thinking about the mercy Prabhupada has given to me. The mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. How this movement of Krishna consciousness is spreading all over the world. Thinking of these things, I feel so much gratitude, so much happiness that the bodily situations don't disturb me at all. So, if we can also take shelter of these elements of the Vaishnavas, the devotees, and the scriptures, then we can be assured that our consciousness will always be protected. Now, Bhishma Dev makes further implores on this topic, further discusses this topic because he understands that maybe Yudhishthira is not completely satisfied yet. So let me help you understand why you have to kill all these people in this war and how to understand the reason behind it. So first of all, he gives the example of Queen Kunti as somebody who went through those tribulations. Why? Because he wants to show that Queen Kunti, despite going through all those tribulations, she was protected. She was always thinking about Krishna. As we just heard wonderful prayers from Queen Kunti. In all those prayers, did you ever hear Queen Kunti pray, "Oh Krishna, I'm having this pain, that pain, can you please solve that?" No. He was just offering prayers of gratitude and prayers of appreciation for Krishna. So Queen Kunti's example is given by Bhishma Dev to make his point. And after that, uh, Bhishma Dev starts discussing an important factor which is very difficult to understand for many of us. What does he says? He says, in my opinion, this is all due to inevitable time under whose control everyone in every planet is carried just as the clouds are carried by the wind. So Bhishma Dev is answering the question that why were we put in difficulty at all? At least materially, why would he put in difficulty at all? And Yudhishthira is saying, Bhishma Dev is saying, it is because of time. And then he says, how wonderful is the influence of time? It is irreversible. Otherwise, how can there be reverses in the presence of King Yudhishthira, the son of demigod controlling the region? Bhima, the fighter with the club, the great bowman Arjuna, his mighty weapon Gandiva, and above all, the Lord, the direct well-wisher of the Pandavas. So here, what we're hearing is that Bhishma Dev is clarifying a point, very important point, that even in the life of great devotees, there can be sufferings. In the case of Yudhishthira, he had Dharma on his side. He is himself Dharma personified. He had Arjuna, who is the most expert archer, Bhima, who is very powerful, and Krishna himself, the Lord himself. And yet, despite all that, there were so many difficulties. So many difficulties. Our life is like a cakewalk. None of us were poisoned when we were small kids. None of us had to live hiding in a forest. We all lived in nice houses. None of us had to fight to even survive, or lose our dear ones in gambling match, this or that. But Pandavas had to go through all that despite having Krishna on their side. So how can we understand why all these things happened to them? And this principle is important to understand because we see also great devotees, they also go through a lot of sufferings. So how can we understand that? First of all, we have to understand that great devotees, they don't have any karma. And this has been stated very clearly in Brahma Samhita, where there is a famous verse. I will read just a little bit. The last line. Karmani niradhati kintu cha bhakti bhajam. So here Brahmaji is saying, I adore the primeval Lord Govinda who burns up to their roots all fruitive activities of those who are imbued with devotion. So here Brahmaji is clearly said there is no karma. Since there is no karma involved in the life of great devotees, how can they suffer? And the answer being given is that it is inevitable time. So time is an agent of Krishna. And time uh, is not, in the case of common people, it brings forth the previous karma of any living entity to fruition. It propels it. And because it is propelling that, it is basically bringing what karma is supposed to bring. So like in our lives, because we're not yet devotees, I just want to be clarify there, it is time which is bringing to fruition our previous karma, and that is why we go through suffering or happiness, to cycles of death, cycles of suffering and happiness. But in case of great devotees, it is Krishna who is propelling the time to perform some activities. It is not because of karma. There is zero, there's no karma involved at all. It is completely Krishna's plan. Can Krishna's plan be understood? No. In the next verse, Bhishma Dev says, no one, not even Shiva or Brahma or Vyasa, can know plans of Krishna. So somebody may say, does Krishna enjoy the suffering of his devotees? No. If he would enjoy the suffering of his devotees, he'll be considered psychopath. Does Krishna enjoy the happiness? Just force, Krishna is some crazy guy, he gives some happiness and suffering. No, he can't be impartial. He has to be complete. He can't be partial. He has to be completely impartial. So what our acharyas explain, what Bhishma Dev is explaining, that the reason great devotees go through suffering or difficulties, it is because they are completely under the control of Krishna, and Krishna wants to increase their bhakti. Because when they are in difficulty, as we heard from Kunti Devi, what does Kunti say? Vipada santu ta shashvat tatra tatra jagat gro. So Kunti is saying, I want difficulties all the time because when difficulties are there, I can remember you. And when I can remember you, then there is no difficulty. So in the life of great devotees, Krishna sometimes put difficulties to increase their nearness to Krishna. Now, is it required that difficulties are always needed for growing bhakti? No, that's not required. It's not that only in difficulty the devotees come closer to Krishna. Even in happiness also devotees can come closer to Krishna. So why Krishna does so? It is Krishna's own free will. Just like we have a free will a little bit, Krishna also has a free will. He has a mind. And he has some plan, if you don't understand. So in the life of great devotees, their life is completely under the control of Krishna. So they are not enjoying the fruits of their previous karma, previous reaction. So that was in the case of the Pandavas, in the case of Yudishtira. Now the question comes to us. We are living in a phase where we are not yet completely devotees, and we are also not completely materialist. We have already started the process of Krishna consciousness. So I was meditating on this point that how can we move to the place where we are completely also controlled by Krishna? All of us would like to live a life where all our activities are planned by Krishna, not because of our previous karma. How can we accomplish that? I was meditating on this point as our final point here. And then one pastime which came into my mind was the pastime of the kings who were controlled by Jarasandha. So there were 20,000 kings which were captured by Jarasandha. He wanted to perform a yagya for Devi, which required 100,000 heads of kings. So he started conquering kings. Now, these 20,000 kings, after they were conquered by Jarasandha, they wrote a combined letter to Krishna in Dwarka, telling that, what did they tell him? They tell him, oh Lord, we are foolish. We have been living a life of enjoyment, thinking that we are this body. But now, finally, we have understood that we are your servants. Please give us shelter. Please protect us. And the moment they said that, they sent the letter to Krishna. Krishna said, okay, I have to do something for them. So the moment we understand that we are actually suffering and we make a prayer to Krishna, then Krishna is willing to take control of our lives. Unless and until we realize that we are suffering and say a prayer to the Lord, we won't be helped. Krishna won't help us because Krishna gives us free will. So, what is the difference between these kings who are captured by Jarasandha and us? The only difference is that we have not understood yet that we have been also captured. In their case, it was Jarasandha, a big king. In our case, it is our own desires, our material conceptions, which are not different than Jarasandha. We are equally suffering as those kings captured by Jarasandha. But the our suffering is even more crazy because we are in heavy modes of ignorance. We don't understand yet the nature of our disease. So, our first step in Krishna consciousness should be to understand our pathetic condition. Unless and until we understand our pathetic condition, we won't pray to the Lord for help. And unless we pray to the Lord, there is no help coming. Because Krishna gives us free will. If we want to enjoy in the material world for another 100 lifetimes, he will let that go on and on and on. So this was my meditation, that at the point which I wanted to end our discussion today, that we can learn from this example that how great life's devotees are completely controlled by Krishna, and we also aspire, we also want to reach that place. But in order to reach that place, the first and foremost thing which we should do is meditate on our pathetic suffering in this material world and chant and pray to Krishna for help. And I'm not saying something new. Our great acharyas like Bhakti Vinod Thakur, he has written several prayers where he talks about his pathetic nature of suffering in the material world. Although he's a great devotee, he's not under the control of material modes of nature. But he has written several songs about where he talks about how he is controlled by material nature. He acts like a conditioned soul, and he talks about his pathetic condition. So we can take shelter of those prayers of our acharyas and come to recognize how suffering and how pathetic is our nature. And once we understand that, then we can pray rightly to the Lord for help. If you have any comments or questions, you can offer those now.
Prabhuji, I have a question
Yes.
on what you said just now. So, in theory, and also to some extent, we also feel that we are in a miserable state, but it's not like a constant thing. Just like how sometimes when we have good moments, we get swayed away and or like we don't focus on how miserable things are actually. Um, Sometimes, right? So how do we, in theory, as I said, all of us know that we are in this pathetic condition, but how do we constantly be in that um, remembrance that we are
Yes.
actually in this miserable state and not be cynical about it, about everything?
Yeah, that's why we have to read the prayers of our acharyas. As I said, as a help thing, we can read how our acharyas are talking about their state of suffering, because they act like a conditioned soul and they place themselves in the same boat and they talk about it. So there's a song written by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, it's called Amar Jivan, and this is one of such songs where he talks about his difficulties. And in this song Amar Jivan, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying, let me read some translation to you. He says, Amar Jivan Sada Pape Rata Nahi Ko Punyera Lesha. He said, I am an impious sinner and I have caused others great anxiety and trouble. I have never hesitated to perform sinful act for my own enjoyment, devoid of all compassion, concerned only with my own selfish interest. I am remorseful seeing others happy. I am a perpetual liar, and the misery of others is a source of great pleasure for me. So what we should do is we should take one verse of this prayer and chant Hare Krishna, meditating on this prayer. And when we will do that, we will see the magic. We will be able to absorb and this recognition of our illusion nature, which is being described here by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, into our consciousness, and we will be able to relate to it in a positive manner. Because you're right, we can also become cynical and lament and not do anything about it. But that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we should realize and have that mood when we are chanting Hare Krishna. Because of course, the method for this current age is chanting of Hare Krishna. By chanting Hare Krishna, everything will come around. The realization of our disease, the the medicine for our disease, everything will come out from the chanting of Hare Krishna for sure. We don't have to change the method, but we should realize that the first step which is going to happen when we chant Hare Krishna is that we will first step is we'll come to realize that how we are in a suffering condition. And if that has not yet happened, then reading these prayers of acharyas can help us quicken our process of realization of how we are suffering in this material world. That's step one. That is why these songs are called Dainya songs. And they are put first in the book of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, which means this is one of the first realizations which we will have when we are chanting Hare Krishna. That how we are sick. If we don't understand we are sick, we can never be healed. So that's the first step which we will realize that we are sick.
Now that you realize that you're sick, what do?
You keep doing the same thing, you chant Hare Krishna.
That's all you need to do?
And of course, we live your life as per the direction of the great Vaishnavas and the scriptures.
So in addition to chanting Hare Krishna, what should we do?
Yeah, you follow what is said in the scriptures. You read the Bhagavad Gita, read the Bhagavatam, and you live the life as per the desire of great acharyas.
And that's it?
Yep.
Nothing else?
Nothing else needed. If we live our life as per the direction, our life is perfect.
Okay, can I ask one question?
Yes.
So once we are in that mode of thinking that how much we are suffering or how fallen I am, is there a fine line where because when we are interacting with people, it turns into that humility at the beginning, it's sort of like fake humility, and it creates like inferiority complex when we are, okay, I'm so fallen, you are so great, and so how do we cultivate it naturally? Is it uh, interaction part? Is
Yeah, I mean, when we chant Hare Krishna and we meditate on these prayers of great acharyas, then we do the right type of humility. So I'm putting it a different way. As you come, you're particularly seeing the same thing which also Roshni shared, that we can become cynical and we can become egotistic in the name of being humble. You know, we're just thinking about ourselves. But that's not the point. The point is that we should come to realize that how we are in a very poor condition and we need to come out of it. And to have that proper mindset, we can take the help of these prayers of acharyas. If we read these prayers and meditate on them and chant Hare Krishna, then we'll get the proper attitude. Now, there's another aspect which also I may highlight because with me is Madhavendra Puri Prabhu is hinting towards it as he always does. Is that if you want to also get quicken this process, we should engage in our life as per the desire of our acharyas. And our desires of our acharyas specifically is that we engage in Harinam Sankirtan, which is coming together and glorifying the Lord. So the more and more we can create opportunities where other people are also able to join us in this process of reading of Bhagavad Gita, reading of Bhagavatam, and chanting Hare Krishna. The more we do that, the more we will get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So like here we are doing study of Srimad Bhagavatam. Before that you were chanting Hare Krishna, and we are like 5 or 6 people who have joined this call, which is happening once a week. Now, if like that, if we can create more opportunities where more and more people are doing regular chanting of Hare Krishna and reading Bhagavatam or taking prasadam, the more we create such situations, such sacrifices, such festivals, the more we will make progress. By ourselves, we may not have the strength. Like if I tell you, Harsh, starting tomorrow, you should chant 16 rounds or 32 rounds, 64 rounds. You may not have the strength or taste to engage yourself. But if suppose there's a festival, then I have some desire, Krishna has some desire, Manogna has some desire, and we all come together and we put our desire together and we're able to accomplish it. So the more we have such Harinam Sankirtan festivals, the quicker we make progress on this path. But the first light which we will see on this path would be the light of Dainya, which is the light of humility, where we will understand what is our pathetic condition. That's the first recognition which we will have. That's the point I wanted to highlight here. That unless and until we come to realize that we are sick, we cannot be healed. So there has to be a deep, deep realization of this, that we are really, really sick. And that realization will come by following this process, which is by meditating on these prayers of acharyas, by engaging more and more Harinam Sankirtan festivals, by creating more opportunities so that others can also benefit from this process. It can be same friends, but coming again and again and discussing these pastimes and discussing, chanting more and more. The more we share with others, the more we participate together in these festivals, the more opportunities we'll have to grow. Is that all right?
Everything you said is wonderful,
Okay, you may want to add something.
and it was a wonderful class.
Thank you. You want to add something, Prabhu?
The question here is perspective. It's not that it'll speed up the process. It's that it will take 600 lifetimes. There were a group of devotees during Prabhupada's time
Yeah.
in Hawaii
Yes.
under Siddha Ananda. They were doing everything. They had deity worship. They had reading of Bhagavatam every morning, Bhagavatam class, following all the regular principles. Everything they had, a temple functions were exactly the same. But they didn't want to do any sort of outreach program to help the non-devotees become devotees. Prabhupada said 600 lifetimes.
Mm-hmm.
See, it's a question of perspective. It's not that it'll just slow down the process. It's just the process will become so slow that you'll give it up. You will lose your taste entirely if you don't work for the mission of the spiritual master.
Well, if you're organizing Harinam Sankirtan festivals, how do you organize those festivals?
Well, are you actually doing that?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And that's not among you get together with other devotees. That's not the point. You have to get the non-devotees to become devotees. That's the entire point. What did Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur do? He had 64 moths.
Yes.
Did he tell them just to sit in the moth all day? No, he had them out distributing books and doing Harinam Sankirtan.
Of course, but
And Prabhupada did the same thing. That's the two most recent acharyas are the ones who give us what we really need to do. They give us the essence of what all the other acharyas are teaching.
Yes, Prabhuji.
You don't have the capacity to chant Hare Krishna without rendering service to the pure Vaishnava. You don't have the power to chant. You won't have the taste to chant. You can recognize, first step, the class you gave today was excellent. It defines the first step. You have to realize that you're sick. That should be obvious.
Well, it doesn't always
Every time you pass stool in the morning, you should realize there's something horribly wrong with having a material body. Just look at it and analyze if you have 3 functional brain cells, if you're a human being, you'll recognize that our situation is very, very precarious and very, very bad. But that's just the very first beginning step. There's many hundreds of steps to be taken beyond that. And if you don't take the further steps, you won't get any inspiration. You'll go back to material life. You won't be able to pursue spiritual life. Try just chanting Hare Krishna and doing no service. It's not going to work. Prabhupada explained this many times. Chanting Hare Krishna is absolutely required. It's extremely important. But along with that, you have to work for the mission. That's where we're really weak. If you want to know what our real weakness is, it's not that we don't get together with other devotees and chant Hare Krishna. We do that all the time. The thing is, we're not working for the mission. We have a job, a big job. We make $100,000 a year. And then we get together with a few devotees on the weekend and we chant Hare Krishna with them and we think our life is perfect. Or we think we're doing everything we can do. That's a big misconception. You have to add to that the working for the mission. Now, because you've arranged a lifestyle where you have so many hours doing non-devotional work, it becomes more difficult, and one should never have arranged such a situation. One should be fully surrendered. That's the point, is the full surrender. That's what Krishna says in 1866 of Bhagavad Gita. You have to surrender. Surrender means you perform actions that are pleasing to Guru and Krishna. Not that you realize, oh, I'm fallen. And then the rest of the day, you chant the mantra, I'm very fallen, I'm very sick, I'm very sick, I'm very fallen, I'm very fallen, I'm very sick. You won't have any taste from that. That's not going to work. That's just the beginning. That's just a small fraction of the process. Most of your days should be engaged in service to the mission of the Guru. Then your chanting will bear very quick fruit. You'll feel ecstasy when you chant. How many times in the morning when we sit to chant arounds, we have no taste for chanting? It's dull. Well, that's because you're spending 10 hours a day working for materialists. If you work for Hiranyakashipu, you're not going to develop the mentality of Narada Muni. That's where we got it all wrong, especially the Indian professionals living in America. And that's your main audience here today in the class. Highly intelligent people with a lot of bhakti in the heart. You have a natural level of bhakti, and you're super intelligent, gifted in so many ways with a huge salary. But you miss the whole point. You have to work for the mission of the spiritual master. That's what we're not doing. We are chanting Hare Krishna. We are following four regular principles. We get together with other devotees and have festivals of Harinam Sankirtan, but that's not what's going to make it. Please understand, if you want to actually change your life, if you want something to change in your life, instead of year after year, the same struggle, no taste for chanting Hare Krishna, very little taste for reading Shastra, struggling with material desires, that's only going to change when you work for the mission. As soon as you add working for the mission, then the chanting comes alive. Then your 16 rounds become a source of great inspiration. You're progressive. You have to move forward in spiritual life, not that it's the same every year after year after year. If it's the same every year after year, you're not doing it right. What did Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur do? He had a whole mission. First of all, Bhaktivinoda Thakur defined the mission, preaching to Westerners. He gave that to his son, Srila Bhakti. He prayed for a son who would do the job. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur set up the system. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur implemented the system in India. And his most glorious disciple, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, brought it to the rest of the world. But the mission is the same. You have to work. You have to do something for spreading Krishna consciousness to the non-devotees, not just your Indian friends who already believe in Krishna.
I want to give an example there because I don't agree completely with what you're saying. In 1967, 66, Srila Prabhupada, he went to California. When he went to California, behind him, devotees were, they're not yet going out to do Sankirtan yet. They were still chanting inside the temple room. And one day, they decided to go outside the temple room and they had a great experience. And they wrote to Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, that's wonderful. And the point being, Prabhupada never told them that they should necessarily go out. It was a natural extension of their wonderful chanting.
That's right.
So here's the point. No.
Exactly
I completely. That's one thing. I want to make a point here that when we're chanting nicely, it's a natural desire of the soul to share. One doesn't have to impose it that we have to go out and share. My point is that if we are chanting nicely, it's having a big festival nicely, then naturally we want to share. It doesn't have to be forceful out of like somebody.
These devotees in 1967
Yeah.
were hearing from Prabhupada were mad after pure spiritual life. They were ready to give up everything and do whatever Prabhupada
Exactly.
desired.
But
So they were on a progressive.
No, the point being that Sankirtan is an extension of our natural participation in Harinam festival.
Yes, well, so I ask a question now of those are in our audience here today.
Yes.
Who have been hearing for 5 or 10 years?
No, they're very new. They're like less than a year.
Less than a year?
Yes.
All of them?
Yes.
Okay, then that's
maybe one student is
then it's
older.
not so bad.
Yeah.
That is not so bad.
Yes.
But yes, it's true. If you chant purely, you'll want a strong desire to work for the mission will automatically occur.
Right.
The question is, are we chanting purely?
The question is, if you put effort, then yes, why not?
Chanting purely is beyond your power. It's not just your effort. It's Guru Kripa.
I'm not arguing that, Guru, but we have to put our best effort.
We have to put our best effort.
When we put our best,
chanting,
then we put
and then in addition to that.
No, there's no addition. That's my point. It's not addition. It naturally happens. There's no need to do any addition.
Is it happening?
Yes.
So for those
who are chanting here, then they have regular practice. They naturally go out and bring their friends. You can ask them. They bring their friends to the programs.
In fact, got two.
Yeah, Roshni brings so many friends all the time. Krishna brings friends. Harsh brings friends. And if you're not chanting nicely, then we won't bring friends.
That's true. That's also true.
Now, you are saying in addition to that, that's another way of presenting it. That in addition to that, we should make effort to reach out to others. Maybe for that's true for somebody else. But it's not what do you say? It is not wrong to say also that if we chant nicely and if we engage in our sadhana nicely, naturally we are inspired to share with others. You are sharing another aspect that we should consciously also make an effort to share with others, and that will bring us the mercy that we can chant nicely. That is another way of presenting the same philosophy. I'm sorry, we went on this trajectory. Are you finished, Boo?
That was good. That was a good answer.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other comments to share? I know we already way past time. It's 8:52. It's hour and 20 minutes into it.
No, Prabhuji, we're
20
good.
minutes.
Like we do about 1.5 hours, so that's up to 9. We can go on up to 9. Yeah.
Okay. Anybody with any comments you can want to ask me or Madhavendra Puri Prabhu, who was the other person who spoke. By the way, Madhavendra Puri Prabhu, he's as you can see here, he's a wonderful Vaishnava. He joined in late or early 80s. He worked as an assistant to wonderful devotees in our movement Prabhupada disciples, such as
Siddha Putit Prabhu.
and before that it was somebody else. No, so Siddha Prabhu and also he wrote Prabhu helped him writing many books, and then he traveled to Eastern Europe sharing Krishna conscious philosophy through science, which I'm assisting him with, and he taught and preached to thousands of people in Eastern Europe. And after doing that for last 3-4 decades, he's finally come back to US to do something here in US where he's trying, and we are assisting him here in his preaching here in the West in the USA. So if any of you are interested in scientific preaching or any kind of preaching, he loves to talk about how to share Krishna's message with more and more people. He's always planning those activities.
Well, that's how you get a big taste. If you want a big taste for chanting, you have to share Krishna consciousness with others. That's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's main teaching.
Yes. So if you
That's not a peripheral aspect, it's the main teaching. To enhance your own Krishna consciousness, you have to share it with others. That's the difference between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Gaudiya Sampradaya and other Vaishnava Sampradayas. That's the main difference. And we happen to be in Lord Chaitanya's Gaudiya Sampradaya.
So if you have any questions for me or him, you're welcome to share right now, or else we will close the call.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji,
Thank
for
you.
joining us today.
Thank you again for the opportunity. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare
Jai.
Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Shanam.